Picture this. It's July 1518, and the city of Strasbourg, nestled in what's now modern-day France, but then part of the Holy Roman Empire, is about to become the stage for one of the most bizarre and unsettling events in history. A woman named Frau Trophäa steps out of her home onto a dusty street. Without warning, she begins to dance. There's no music, no festival, no reason anyone can see. Her movements are frantic, almost possessed, and she doesn't stop, not for hours, not for days. Her feet blister, her body trembles, but she keeps dancing, as if compelled by some invisible force. This is the beginning of the dancing plague of 1518, a phenomenon so strange it defies explanation even today. What started with one woman quickly spiraled into something far more alarming. Within days, neighbors and strangers joined Frau Trophäa, caught in the same uncontrollable urge to dance. By the end of the first week, around 30 people were dancing in the streets, their bodies moving in jerky, relentless rhythms. The city's cobblestone paths echoed with the shuffling of feet, day and night, as the dancers' faces grew pale and their eyes hollow from exhaustion. By August, the number had ballooned. Chronicles from the time claim up to 400 people were afflicted, men, women, and even some children, all dancing without pause, some until they collapsed. Strasbourg in 1518 was not a city at peace. To understand this madness, we need to step back into its world. The early 16th century was a time of turmoil. The Black Death still lingered in memory, and smaller plagues swept through regularly. Famine had struck the region, with failed harvests leaving many hungry. The gap between the wealthy elite and the struggling masses was widening, fueling resentment. Religious tension was also brewing. Martin Luther's Reformation was just a year away, and debates over Catholic authority were heating up. Strasbourg's people were on edge, their lives steeped in superstition and fear of divine judgment. Some believed comets or bad omens signaled God's wrath. In this pressure cooker, something as strange as a dancing epidemic could take hold. As the dancing spread, the city's leaders scrambled for answers. What was causing this? Was it a curse, a disease, or the work of demons? The local physicians trained in medieval medicine had a theory: hot blood. They believed the dancers' brains were overheated, causing uncontrollable movements. Their prescribed cure sounds absurd to us. Now they decided the dancers should dance even more to purge the sickness. The city council went along with this, clearing a grain market to build a wooden stage. They hired musicians to play drums and lutes, hoping rhythm would somehow help. They even paid professional dancers to join in, thinking it might guide the afflicted to a natural end. Instead, this only fanned the flames. More people joined and the dancing grew wilder. Reports describe people collapsing from heart attacks, strokes, or sheer exhaustion. Some sources claim dozens died, though exact numbers are murky, as 16th century record-keeping was spotty at best. The church had its own take. Priests declared the dancing a punishment from God, possibly linked to Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dancers and epilepsy. In medieval lore, Saint Vitus could curse sinners with uncontrollable movements, a condition sometimes called Saint Vitus's dance. The clergy banned music and dancing, fearing it was fueling the devil's work. They organized processions, masses, and even pilgrimages to a nearby shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, hoping prayer would break the spell. Exorcisms were performed on some dancers, with priests chanting over their writhing bodies. By September, after weeks of chaos, the dancing began to slow. One by one, the afflicted stopped, some recovering, others too weak to continue. The plague faded as mysteriously as it began, leaving Strasbourg stunned and historians puzzled for centuries. So, what really happened? Modern scholars have sifted through the evidence and several theories have emerged. The most compelling points to mass psychogenic illness, a phenomenon where stress, fear, or trauma triggers collective behavior. Think of it like a psychological contagion. Strasbourg's people were under immense strain, Hunger, disease, and religious anxiety could have pushed their minds to a breaking point. In such conditions, one person's actions, like Frau Trophea's dancing, could spark a chain reaction. Similar events, like the laughing epidemics in 20th century Tanzania, show how groups can mirror extreme behaviors under stress. The dancing may have been a release, a way to cope with a world that felt like it was unraveling. Another theory focuses on ergot poisoning. Ergot is a fungus that grows on rye, a staple crop in Strasbourg. When ingested, it can cause convulsions, hallucinations, and muscle spasm symptoms that might look like dancing to an untrained eye. Known as St. Anthony's Fire, ergotism was documented in medieval Europe. But there's a catch. Ergot poisoning typically causes pain and gangrene, not coordinated dancing. Could it have triggered the initial cases, with hysteria taking over from there? It's possible, but not a perfect fit. Some historians suggest a spiritual angle. In the Middle Ages, religious ecstasy often involved trance-like states. Pilgrims and mystics sometimes moved rhythmically during worship, believing it brought them closer to God. Could the dancers have been caught in a fervent collective ritual gone wrong? This theory struggles to explain the deaths and the lack of religious context in many accounts. Others argue the event was exaggerated, a mix of local gossip and later chroniclers' flair for drama. Yet multiple sources, city council records, physician notes, and church documents confirm something extraordinary happened. Smaller dancing outbreaks occurred elsewhere in Europe, like in Switzerland and Germany, but none matched Strasbourg's scale. The dancing plague raises deeper questions about human nature. Why did Frau Trophea dance? Was she grieving, mad, or simply desperate for attention in a world that ignored her? Why did so many follow? Were they swept up in fear, imitation, or something else? The event is a window into a time when science was rudimentary and the line between the natural and supernatural was blurry. It shows how fear and belief can grip a community, turning a single act into a city-wide spectacle. Today, the dancing plague of 1518 remains one of history's great mysteries. It's a story of desperation, belief, and the strange power of the human mind. As you imagine those streets filled with dancers, unable to stop, ask yourself, what would it take to push you to such extremes? Could a modern city fall into similar chaos, or is this a relic of a bygone era? The answers are as elusive as the plague itself. But one thing is certain, this is a tale that lingers, haunting us with its unanswered questions.